What was daily life like for the world's fiercest warriors? Welcome to my channel. Today, we're stepping into the world of Sparta. As a kid, you were either exceptionally gifted or horribly average. In Sparta, all that mattered was being strong, cunning, and brave enough to survive. The agog, or Spartan upbringing, began at age 7. Boys would be sent to live with a group of other children, completely naked, with the only possession being a red cloak. At age 12, they'd be given a wooden sword and a shield, and would spend their days fighting and scheming with the other boys. Only the strongest would survive. Meanwhile, girls in Sparta had far more freedom than their counterparts in other Greek city-states. They were allowed to walk around the city naked, were encouraged to participate in athletics, and were expected to marry later in life to ensure the strength of the Spartan bloodline. Boys who survived the agoge would then be paired off and take on increasingly difficult challenges. By age 30, they were considered men and would be eligible for political office. However, they would continue to live with their barracks and fight alongside their fellow soldiers until they were 60 years old. After that, they could finally live with their family. But don't get too comfortable, because even in your old age, you would be called to fight if the state deemed it necessary. Helots were the backbone of Spartan society. These slaves did all the work while the citizens farmed and fought. This created a stark divide between the elite warriors and the oppressed masses. And although Sparta was technically a democracy, the helots had no rights and were treated as property. In fact, Sparta was one of the only city-states in Greece where slavery was hereditary. If your father was a slave, then so were you. And there were far more helots than citizens in Sparta, about 7 to 1. So the warriors were greatly outnumbered. But this actually worked in Sparta's favor because it created a culture of suspicion and paranoia. Citizens would constantly be on the lookout for a slave uprising, which led to the creation of the world's most elite military force. You may think that life in ancient Sparta was all war and no rest, but that wasn't entirely true. There were festivals and celebrations too, but even these events were used to further the agenda of the state. During festivals, Spartans would drink heavily and take part in all kinds of revelry. But even during these celebrations, there would be mandatory events like javelin throwing competitions and military parades. And while Spartan men were drinking and partying, their women were expected to keep working. Even pregnant women would participate in athletic competitions while carrying their babies. So, was Sparta really worth it? Did living such a brutal and regimented life actually make Sparta stronger? Unfortunately, we'll have to wait until next week's episode to find out, because this is where our time in Sparta ends. Stay tuned for Episode 5, The Fall of Sparta. Thank you for watching.